Hey guys, it's Blackstone Betty. Time to talk cheesesteaks. If you know me, you know I live right outside of Philadelphia. I grew up here my entire life, 10 minutes from Philadelphia. So I'd like to think I know a thing or two about cheesesteak and that I can teach you guys a little something about how to make a cheesesteak. And I am also going to show you, since we are in this movement of freeing the cheesesteak, which slightly hurts my soul, a little fun twist on a cheesesteak that I do enjoy here at my house, because after all, who loves rules anyway? I know I don't. So stick around and let's have some fun talking about cheesesteaks. Okay, cheesesteaks. A cheesesteak is simply steak and cheese on good bread. Now for our steak sandwich, of course, if you don't live near the Philadelphia area, you're not going to easily be able to find shaved or what we call chipped ribeye steak, where it's sliced down super thin. You can, however, buy some ribeye steaks, which is what I did today to show you guys, or you can go for a good quality sirloin and slice it yourself. Stick it in the freezer for 30 minutes, depending on how thick your steak is, just so that it slightly freezes, making it easier to slice. Now you can use a meat slicer if you have one, or pick yourself up one of the Blackstone knives and use that. They're super sharp and perfect for slicing meats thin. You can just about see through these pieces of steak. I think anything thicker would consider this more like fajita meat, and if you like it, shoot, go for it. But a cheesesteak, typically whenever you go out and buy one or order one, will have that shaved down meat, making for a really tender, soft bite when biting into your steak sandwich. There's nothing worse than biting into a cheesesteak and having all of those big pieces of meat fall out, or it's just too hard to bite through. Now this, for a cheesesteak, just like I had growing up, consists of our shaved ribeye. We have, of course, some sweet onions or white onions, and these are diced up to a medium size. You'll want some kind of oil to fry these up in. I always grew up using vegetable oil or olive oil, although sometimes now I will use duck fat because I love the flavor of it. A good cheesesteak requires a good cheese, and Cooper Sharp American cheese sliced at the deli is my #1 for a cheesesteak. It is so delicious and so creamy, and I know I've showed you guys a million times how I melt through this cheese into a cheesesteak, but today I'm adding a little twist to it, and I can't wait to show you guys. I have a nice long 24-inch Licio roll. There is nothing more important to a cheese steak sandwich, for us at least around here, than good bread. It has to be a nice Italian loaf. You can go seedless or seeds. I love the sesame seeds added to the rolls. It has to be chewy, it has to be soft on the inside and nice and crunchy hard on the outside. We all know one of the most popular toppings for a cheesesteak, for at least tourists or kids, or of course if it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I will admit it was good growing up, but we're gonna make a white cheese sauce for this. Super simple, and it's way better than that fake cheese whiz that you're gonna buy in a jar. And if you can't find Cooper Sharp, just get the best quality American sliced cheese you can from your deli counter. I have my Blackstone preheated to low across the board. On my right side burner, I'm gonna turn that to medium and place a small pot. To that, I'm adding in a small can of evaporated milk. Be sure that it does not say sweetened. You wanna heat the evaporated milk just until it starts to steam a little, until it's warm to touch. You don't want to boil or overheat your evaporated milk. As soon as it's warm, let's start dropping in our Cooper Sharp American cheese that I just break up into pieces, adding a little handful at a time, stirring it, making sure that it melts evenly before I add in the next batch of cheese. You can add in about half of a pound of cheese to this small can of evaporated milk. You can give or take if you like it thinner or thicker as well. Just note that it will thicken as it cooks and as it stands. This cheese sauce also reheats perfectly, and it's perfect for dipping in your fries. Around here, there's one thing we all love, and that is Krabby fries. We love our French fries loaded up with Old Bay and dipped into this Cooper Sharp cheese sauce. Now, as that all melts through, through, we're gonna drop down some of our duck fat, spread that around, and drop down our onions. Give them a toss to coat and let them begin to cook. I don't want to rush them, I don't want to brown them, I just want to slightly soften them just so that you see around the edges of the onions start to turn brown. Once they are done, we're going to slide them aside. I'm not seasoning them yet. These onions look perfect, so let's slide them to the side, leaving behind some of that duck fat that's now seasoned with the onion flavor as well. This is going to add some good flavor to our ribeye. We'll turn up our Blackstone to medium-high heat. If your surface looks a little bit dry, add just a little bit more duck fat, and then you can drop down your ribeye. We'll let this steak begin to cook. It's going to cook up so fast because it's so thin. Although there are some larger pieces in this, so I like to use a spatula or two or a scraper together at the same time, tearing apart any large pieces of steak into smaller bite-sized pieces, working your way through that big pile of meat until all of your steak is cooked through and nice and small. Continue tossing. You'll notice the edges and sides of your ribeye starting to caramelize and crisp up. This is perfect. This is exactly what you want it to look like. Now our meat looks so good. It smells like heaven. Time to add in those onions. We'll toss everything together. Let that continue to cook for a minute or so. Now is the time when you want to season your meat and your onions. I have some salt and I have some pepper. One good tip for cooking a cheesesteak I learned is not to add any salt or pepper in the beginning of cooking your steak, not until at least it's done cooking. You don't want to dry out your meat by adding in any seasoning, especially salt, until it's done cooking. Our cheese looks velvety, silky, smooth, and so nice and thick and creamy. Our steak and onions is done. Now if you weren't using the cheese sauce, now is the time you'd add some slices of deli cheese. Let it melt throughout, toss it. It'll get nice and creamy all over that steak. However, since we are using cheese sauce, we're gonna hold off a second. I'm gonna be cutting this 24-inch roll in half. Look how soft it is on the inside. It's chewy, but it's so tough. This thing is not gonna fall apart when loading it up with all of our meat and cheese. That's why I love a good Italian roll. Divvy up our meat so that your meat is in piles equal to the length of your rolls. Before we place these rolls over our steak, we have to load them up with our cheese. So for our first sandwich, I'm gonna drizzle over some of our white Cooper Sharp American cheese sauce. Give it a toss through so that it is in every single bite of my sandwich. We'll place our rolls right on top of our cheesy meat. Give it a little press down and let those corners kind of kiss the edges of the Blackstone, soaking up just a tad of that grease from your ribeye and your cheese. We'll allow the heat to steam those rolls just about 20 to 30 seconds, and then place one hand on top of your roll, sliding your large Blackstone spatula right under that meat. Give it a flip, making sure to scoop up any extra meat that may have fallen out when flipping. And that one's done, so let's jump over to our other cheesesteak. For this one, I am adding to my cheesesteak some Kewpie mayo and a little sriracha ketchup to give it a little bit of heat. I'm also going to be adding in some green onions, and I'm gonna add in some drippy, dippy, sexy eggs to the top of this. It's going to be delicious, I know, because you can never go wrong with steak and drippy, dippy, sexy eggs off of the Blackstone. I'm gonna drop down a little bit of duck fat, drop down our eggs, season them up with a little bit of salt and pepper. For our meat, we're gonna also drizzle down some of our white American cheese sauce. Let that mix through. Again, place our roll on top of that meat, letting the edges of our roll kiss the surface again. You want that little bit of grease. After 30 seconds, we're gonna give this a flip, and then we're gonna top it off with our eggs. Zhuzh it up with a drizzle of our Kewpie mayo, our sriracha ketchup, and our green onions, and this one looks so delicious. I can't wait to dive into it. But before I do, I have to dive into this cheesesteak. This is what I make all of the time. I'm gonna drizzle over it a little extra of our cheese sauce because why the heck not? And now it's time for peppers. Now we may not put peppers in my cheesesteak because that is how we do it here or how I grew up, but we do serve peppers alongside. Whether they're sweet and sassy or hot and spicy, they're always from a jar in a vinegar brine. These vinegary brined pickled peppers are meant to be eaten throughout eating your cheesesteak. And there's a reason why. Eating these after a couple bites or so really helps to cut that richness flavor. A cheesesteak is so rich and fatty and delicious that when you take a bite of these vinegary peppers, it really just balances out your taste buds in your mouth. Another thing I love is a hot pepper hoagie spread. I love smearing this on the inside of the bread before placing it on top of the cheesesteak meat, and Cento makes a fabulous hoagie spread. And I can't forget, my mom always served up a Jewish deli pickle out of the barrel from the deli when getting that Cooper Sharp American cheese and her chipped sirloin or ribeye steak meat. Now, whatever way you enjoy your cheesesteak, I know it's gonna be delicious because you're making it on a Blackstone. And I can't wait to see how crazy and funky and fun and wild you can get with all of your toppings or ways that you change up your steak sandwich. Just please stop calling it a Philly. When you do make those steak sandwiches, be sure to post a picture and tag Blackstone products. Don't forget to go to griddlenation.com and pick up some apparel. Check out the stickers. There's lots of fun stuff in there for you guys, along with subscribing to the Blackstone Griddles YouTube channel. There's so many different shows on there between, of course, mine, and then there's CJ and Nate and Todd and Bruce and Destination Delicious. There are just loads of recipes for you guys to try, and of course we always love chatting with you guys there in the comments, so don't forget to leave one for our new recipe videos, which come out all week long. Now go enjoy a cheesesteak because I have some meat to eat. That sounds really awful.